Hello, and welcome back to another episode. Today, I simply have to share with you my love, my utter adoration for a small but perfectly formed handheld gaming experience, the PS Vita. This wonderful little console utterly passed me by in 2012 when it was released outside of Japan, and that's understandable. This really wasn't aimed at me. I wasn't the target audience. I'd never owned a PlayStation, for example. I knew people who had. I remember the PS1 being really interesting, but then it was sort of outdone, as far as I was concerned, by the N64. I remember the PS2 being really solid, a really prolific library that was everywhere. All my friends had PS2s, and the games looked quite cool. But actually, lots of the games I wanted to play were also being released, for example, on the GameCube, and so on. It wasn't really until the PlayStation 4 came out, and even then, it took a while, with the release of Spider-Man, that I finally had a Sony console in my life, in my house. And it was only then, therefore, that I even considered the PS Vita. I knew people, for example, who'd had PlayStation Portable, PSPs, back in uni, but at that point I wasn't really doing mobile gaming or portable gaming. I was playing the Wii, and I was working hard at my studies. And before then, it had always been Nintendo. So Game Boy was my first portable console with Kirby's Dream Land, and of course then I discovered Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening and never looked back. And so Game Boy Advance, DS, the 3DS, despite its awful form factor, and I'll come back to that in a moment, they had been my portable gaming staples. Nintendo, for the most part, had been where it was at for me. But it was with COVID, actually, with lockdown, that I played Uncharted on the PS4. They released the Uncharted collection for free on the digital store, and I played through the trilogy and loved it. Then I got hold of A Thief's End and The Lost Legacy. Played those, loved those, and I was hungry for more. And the only other place that I could try an Uncharted game was on the Vita, with the release, of the console. They released Uncharted Golden Abyss as a launch title for this. So this is now a 10-year-old console, but it feels really fresh. When I first picked up my PS Vita, specifically in order to play Uncharted Golden Abyss, I had relatively low hopes. After all, it's a handheld game that was released in 2012 along with this console. I think it was a launch title for the Vita. It couldn't possibly live up to the full home console experience, but actually Bend Studios, the company that went on to make Days Gone, for example, one of my favourite open world experiences on PlayStation 4, really knocked it out of the park. This game plays like an honest-to-goodness Uncharted game. There's a grenade coming in. Where has he gone? Where is he? Oh, there he is. There's here you go, bad guy. They make use of features like, for example, the touchscreen brilliantly to enact combat. You can strike, you can swipe to escape. You can eventually, hopefully, knock the guy out. That's good. Get into cover. Aiming feels really good, but also fine-tuning your aim using... Oh, the guy's right behind me. Can we get him? Yep. Need to hit him. Yep, that's good. Swipe down. Swipe up. Yeah. Fine-tuning your aim using the gyroscope is fantastic. Oh, he's just over there. Oh, goodness me, these guys are everywhere. There we go. Again, it's a full adventure game, you know? There's barely any room to talk about it. Fine-tuning your aim with the gyroscope feels fantastic. It does require you to move the screen around in and out of your best viewing angle, but nonetheless, it works really, really well. The fact that as you're exploring these different levels, different
parts of the world, actually they make use of the back of the console, the touch screen here, to enable you to manipulate artifacts. You can, for example, rotate skulls and treasures. You can use the touchscreen to do rubbings, to solve puzzles in the landscape. It's actually a really rounded Nathan Drake experience that has features that I ended up missing when I went back to play on the PS4. For example, press select, and this menu comes up here, and you can select the camera view that actually allows you to take photos in the landscape of key places using the touchscreen on the back to zoom in and out as you go. So, for example, here we are looking at a archaeological dig. There's a gun flashing there, and I can take a photo of that and keep it in Nathan's journal, I suppose. This is something that's just not in the main console games, but it's here on the PS Vita. It rounds off the character in beautiful ways, making use of features that this console specifically has. I just love it. Speaking of which, I love the overall form factor. I love the UI. I love the fact that actually to close this game, for example, you just swipe down, peel it away, and away it goes. I love the fact that actually it feels really good in your hands to play. It fits beautifully. The curve into the shoulder buttons is magnificent. The buttons are nice and tactile and clicky. The sticks rotate quite nicely. They feel solid. It's a brilliant designed console. The sound is excellent. The only downside I've found so far is that the Bluetooth connection is terrible. I've tried listening to music, videos, and games on this via Bluetooth, via my Bluetooth headphones, and it's awful. All of the online forums will confirm that. It's just terrible. But it does have an AV, an audio jack at the bottom there. So actually, that again is magnificent. The battery on this thing is fantastic. It charges quite quickly, and it stays in standby mode. For example, I've had this stay more or less 100% for 2 weeks at a time. I haven't touched it for a fortnight, and it's still there, ready to go. Going back to the form factor for a moment, this thing is really comfortable to hold, even with my relatively large hands. Not only is it curved around its edge, and therefore, for example, reaching round to the shoulder buttons is quite straightforward on the top there. But actually, this thing is a compound curve. The whole console has a sort of a beveled, curved edge. It's really a pleasure to hold, and doesn't give you those hand cramps in extended play sessions that, for example, the 3DS did. I sold the 3DS in order to buy the Switch because the Switch is wider and solves that problem that way. This console solves that sort of boxy reaching around to get the buttons and giving yourself cramp problem by just being really, really ergonomic. It's a brilliant console, and I had zero buyer's remorse as soon as I started diving into Nathan Drake's adventures.
PlayStation Remote Play was a revelation, an absolute delight to discover via the PS Vita. This thing streams games from my PS4. I've played the original Uncharted on this little console, and it works a charm. It just plays via, it's a PS3 game via the PS4 coming to my handheld. But it was wonderful. They swap out the extra shoulder buttons for touchscreen prompts instead. But it was smooth, it was exciting, it was Uncharted, and it was on my PS Vita. In so many ways, this console really was seemingly ahead of the curve, ahead of its time, in terms of screen quality, in terms of battery life, in terms of form factor, as I say, but also actually in terms of the form of the games themselves. For example, this is the God of War collection, and the little cartridges are the sort of thing that now the Switch uses. And actually even then the Switch cartridges are bigger than these. These are actually dangerously thin and small in terms of potentially losing them. It was ahead of its time, and I really love that. It's such a delight to go back and experience just what I had heard about. I'd heard for years now that the PS Vita was was mwah, and it was a real shame when it was technically discontinued by Sony. But also as well, for me, it's represented an opportunity to play only on PlayStation games. For example, God of War Collection. I don't have a PlayStation 3, but I do have a PS Vita now, and I was able to go back and play God of War 1, which I'm playing now, and I will play God of War 2, so that I can go on to play God of War 3 Remastered on my PlayStation 4, ready to play God of War Ragnarok when I can afford that. Having experienced God of War 2018 on my PS4. So going back and playing PlayStation or Sony legacy games has been another real bonus of getting hold of a PS Vita. Not just for Uncharted, but for God of War, for things like Little Big Planet. This is the PS Vita version, so it's not quite the same experience as the PS3, or I think it was a PS4 game as well. But anyway, I had never tried it. Sackboy and His Adventures I got into because of the Vita. And also games like this, Tearaway, I'm really curious about. So I played a little bit, picked this up from my local CEX store. A papery world in your godlike hands. Well, there you go. So yeah, legacy titles, Sony legacy titles, just crucial. I suppose an extension of that would be the Sony store, the PlayStation Store, that's actually still accessible on the PS Vita.
The PlayStation Store on the Vita is fantastic. It's been a real pleasure exploring that store and seeing what it has to offer. Again, having grown up without a PlayStation in the house, we were a Nintendo and Sega Mega Drive house primarily. This has been a really great way of going back and experiencing, for example, some PSP and PS1 classics that are available here on the store to download. The library is quite convenient, and and even 10 years after release, we have certain games, for example, that I'm about to talk about, such as Castlevania Symphony of the Night, but also as well, Cool Borders. I remember hearing loads about Cool Borders when I was in high school. I can play those games if I want to. $3.99 to download. Crash Bandicoot, CTR, Crash Team Racing, Driver. All of these games are here on the store still to this day, and it's just an absolute delight. In fact, one of my favorite game discoveries on this store was, I think, a Vita game, and that is it Hustler? Hustle Kings 3. This is a pool and billiards or snooker game that controls beautifully on this console. I've always loved snooker simulators. I remember on the Mega Drive, I was looking for the perfect snooker game. And this one from Ru Fu Studios, I'll just turn down the volume a little bit there, is fantastic. It actually plays using a really interesting combination of control elements. So you use the stick on the left, for example, to move your aim primarily, and also as well you can move the cue up and down relative in terms of its angle to the cue ball. You have the option to fine tune your aim. You hold the circle button to move slowly left and right. So that's left and right on the stick without the circle button, left and right with it. You can go up, you can go down. When it comes to getting a better view on the table, the right shoulder button gives you above view, and then also actually a ball view where you can switch between the object ball and the subject ball. Is that right? The cue ball and the ball that you're aiming at. You can do spin on the cue ball. You can manipulate that using the touch screen here at the bottom left, moving your thumb around, or you can use actually the right stick to get a fine-tuned aim on that. So there you go, up and down. And to take a shot, you actually use the touchscreen, which is really satisfying. You can actually see the cue going back and forward. 1, 2, and... Oh, that was a rubbish shot. I'll go again. Okay, and there we go. 100% power, 97% accuracy. Not too bad. This almost alone actually would make me love this console, because it's a really tactile pool table, billiard table experience. And I think, for example, if I downloaded this on an app store, it would just be touchscreen and it wouldn't have some of these tactile button elements that I really love. In addition to that as well, I also picked up Gottlieb Pinball Classics from the App Store, from the PlayStation Store. I love a good pinball game, and I do have a fair selection on the Switch. But Gottlieb, the last time I played this, I think was on the Wii, and it's a fairly solid pinball game. It doesn't have, it's not the is it the Williams Arcade pinball games and others that appear on other releases. So this one has some specific benefits, and one of my favorite parts of playing actually on this particular format is a little bit like with the Switch. And pinball games on that console, you actually have the option to play in vertical mode. So actually, let's just start a game. Actually, the table is this way up. So you use the top stick here to draw and shoot the ball, and then it's the X and triangle buttons that you use for the flippers. So there we go. Yeah. So it's a solid pinball experience as well. Pinball and billiards. These are games or types of games that I'm always on the lookout for good versions of, because they're relatively rare and they're fairly niche, and I never would have thought I would find them here on the PS Vita. The PlayStation Store continues to be a revelation and a genuine delight, not least because, though, of Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
When I realised that this wonderful little handheld could play Castlevania Symphony of the Night on the go, portable, wherever I want to take it, I mean, goodness me, I pretty much had an aneurysm. It was just so exciting. It's the reason I'm making this video. I got way too excited at the prospect of Castlevania Symphony of the Night on the go. I mean, it's the reason I was so excited about Bloodstained Ritual of the Night for the Switch. A rocky release. They did eventually patch it quite well. But together, the Vita and the Switch, I mean, what a combination. What more do I need? No, I don't. I love my gaming PC. I love other things as well that they're in my collection. But this thing is fantastic. I do still prefer my first Symphony of the Night experience on the Xbox 360. It was released on the Xbox Live Arcade, and obviously the screen is larger, the sound and the colours are a little bit better, and also actually the formatting on this screen is the original formatting, so they cut off the sides of the screen for Castlevania. But still, portable Symphony of the Night, I mean, chef's kiss. Chef's kiss. I'm so excited. I was so excited. I'm still excited, and I love this console, as I know many of you do as well. There's a really healthy Twitter community, for example, of PS Vita devotees. And I suppose my final query really about this is, what games should I get for the Vita? What games do I need to experience with this particular combination of features, especially making use of things like the touch controls on the back? I'm curious. I don't want to collect all the games for the Vita, but are there some must-haves that I don't have? I'll put on screen now the games that are currently in my collection. It's a modest, but I think interesting little range of experiences. And what else should I get? Because I'm convinced, I'm sure that there's more to learn about this console. There's more to experience, and more fun to be had. So there you have it. PS Vita, wonderful, magnificent. Viva la Vita. Thank you guys for watching. Until next time, do take care. Bye bye.